We currently have all commissioners present, and Charles Weber, city manager, is here as well. And our clerk, Karen Hayes. And so with that, Commissioner Banks, I'm going to ask you to lead us through our education.
Father, once again, we come before you to give you thanks and praise and to lift up your name. God, we pray for our community and all our citizens within our community. Continue to bless us and lead us the way that we should go. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Charles, I'm gonna ask you to start us off.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we received 5 responses to our RFP. All the firms are very experienced, very capable, been very successful with grant awards, so it's a very difficult choice. Oftentimes in these cases, I find myself end up looking for ways to ding some of them to reduce points. In this case, it was just very difficult. The big difference was the cost of them, which was not a factor in scoring. So the point of this exercise was to have a continuing services agreement or several agreements with a firm or firms to search for grants for us. And either we ask them to go proactively digging around and we pay them either by the hour, or they find a grant and give us a proposal for X amount of dollars and apply for that grant. Or we have the one applicant, Fred Fox, who we've worked with for years, only gets paid if he gets the grant. So it's his motivation to win the awards. But he does not spend time looking around doing research to figure out, hey, here's a grant, I wonder if this would work in Crescent City. So that's sort of the trade-off. We want that kind of service where someone meets with us, looks at our plans, and starts going out, searching lists and things they know about. They'll bill us for the hour by that, and then they'll pay a fee to apply for certain grants. So my feeling is we really aren't in a position to do that. Our general fund is going to take on some new expenditures next year, whether that be animal control or financing. We do a bond, whether it's an overhead for the new middle school property. Many things could be in our general fund, so to pay someone just to search for grants and then hope they'd be successful and pay them to apply, I think is beyond our limits. We have a very good relationship with Fred Fox, been successful for us. Currently have a CDBG grant that they're administering for us. We intend to have them apply for FERDAP in the coming year. So it's up to you how you want to proceed. If you've already scored them, we can provide those scores. I've been getting requests from these firms for the scoring results. And I've informed them we have not yet gone through that process. So, Mayor, how do you want to proceed?
Okay, commissioners, any comments on this? Start us off. Commissioner Ward?
I started scoring them and it was kind of difficult they're all very good firms. I did find that the ones that are out of state, the one in California, Jetco and Intuitive, they look like they're doing a lot of federal grants, a lot of big, higher up kind of things that I don't know, stuff that we would even qualify for, or stuff that we, and they also have a huge expense to go after those. Fred Fox has done a great job for us. Fred Fox, I think, will continue to do a great job for us, and we need to, of course, keep them on board. But like you said, they don't go after anything that they don't really know they're going to get. They've done FERDAP, they've done CDBG. That's pretty much what they've done for us every time, every year almost. Why was it that we don't have any FERDAP grants open right now, right?
Correct.
But
we just closed out one.
But you got 2 open at a time.
Correct. They contacted me right before the deadline, maybe it was August. I think it slipped by. They said, you weren't planning for FERDAP grant, were you? Well, no, I guess not. So we missed
there's 2 opportunities to have 2 open at a time. I think that's something we've always been very successful with those, because those are for parks. They're very general and they are scored competitively, but we've made very good use of those. That's pretty much one of the only ways we've improved our parks in this town. I just think we need to make sure that we stay on those deadlines. But yeah, it's, the guardian people, I thought that was an issue. They work with Putnam County, I think, on the SHIP program. And so I don't know. My feelings are that we need somebody doing more than what Fair Fox is doing. We need someone that is actively looking for stuff for us. Now, whether that's you or whether that's a dedicated person or a part-time person, I think that's something that we need to consider because, you know, a grant writer brings in money. So it's not an expense that we're just spending, you know, and we're not getting anything in return. If they're successful, you know, we're successful. And I just think that we need to broaden our horizons. I think that's something that, why we've talked about having a grant writer for so long. So those are my feelings. I think we need to, I don't know, paying one of these firms to go out actively looking is the best, you know, the right answer, but I think we need to widen our horizons. Because there is a lot of money out there that we're not, you know, that we're not taking advantage of. And the other thing too is, who was it that somebody did legislative appropriations too? The Guardian people, I think.
More than one.
Yeah, and I mean, that was something that I think we might want to look into them as far as their success for those, because I mean, we know that we didn't succeed this year, in getting.
Well, we're not done yet. I mean, no, I think we still are in the ballgame, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still in the ballgame.
Okay.
We're still in the ballgame right now. So,
But, you know, it's something that maybe having someone working with us on those, we might be more successful in the future. But those are just my feelings.
thank you. Commissioner Villa.
Sure, just starting with the last thing Commissioner Roy said first, and the kind of something I don't want to forget to address, as far as paying someone to do legislative grants for us, I noticed the pricing is very expensive for that. And I will share, I don't think I wrote up my notes, but when I went to the League of Cities Legislative Conference, and they had a number of seminars. One of the seminars, one of the main speakers was Dean Kennett, former Speaker of the House. And he was very nice, he was very clear, very honest. He really, I think he's making a lot of money now on his firm. He has a lobbying firm and whatever. He really seems to want to help everybody. He answered a ton of questions. And he said, in his opinion, for a small municipality that doesn't have a big budget, he thought that grant writing was a better investment than to pay money for someone to try to go after a legislative appropriation for you. That was, I've been meaning to share that.
So he's talking about doing grant writing as opposed to lobbying.
Exactly, because he said your percentage is better, and I guess my observation is, there's a certain amount of legislative requests, that your legislator is gonna put in for you. And we got one last year, and we may get one this year. And I noticed the fees for those legislative appropriation, services are quite high. So, I mean, that's always out there. As far as the whole issue of grant writer, I learned a lot from reading these proposals. I agree with Commissioner Lori, that somehow it's important that we consider how to increase our grant applications, because we need to not just spend money and give our own money away to grants. We really need to do something that brings money back in, particularly if there's a lot of grants out there. So I did not find that the RFP scoring was that helpful to like how we would choose someone. Y'all probably found the same thing, like they were all good communicators. They all did a decent submission, although I don't think anybody ever told us when they were available to start. I thought that was kind of funny. But what I observed is, and what was more important to me, same thing that Commissioner Ward noticed, Gardening Community Resource Management. They were one, they're in Florida, and they do work with small towns, some smaller towns. I think a lot of the programs that counties get probably do not apply to us. So I focused on that. They seem to that little second column, experiencing, identifying potential grants. Guardian and a little bit Jetco. Jetco is a much smaller, newer company. But Guardian really seems to have the greatest capability to look at your needs and look at what's out there. They charge for it, but they weren't the most expensive one. So to me, and I noticed also, I did not find it with the others. Guardian said that their offer was open for 120 days after bid opening. Was that January 31st, Charles?
February, wasn't it?
Those days.
I don't know what it was.
I think it was end of January.
So anyway, so that's roughly 4 months. I thought that they had something potentially to offer us if we thought we could afford it in terms of looking at our needs and looking what's out there. Fred Fox has done a good job for us, but the drawback of Fox Enterprises, I mean, what they do really well. They offer to do the research part for free, but it's very limited, and I didn't really like their methodology. They said that they would go talk to our department heads and then go out there and research what we would need. Well, to me, I think that's kind of, or research what's available. Personally, I think that that's kind of our job to ask staff what they need and to have it come to us. And then as commissioners, we should look at the needs, and because we cannot make unlimited grant applications. So, I mean, they offer to do the research for free, but I think, and I know our city manager has mentioned, you know, he would like to work more with Fred Fox and see if they could do more for us. I get the feeling that they do mainly CDBG and FERDAP because those may enable them to get paid out of the award, whereas others might not. Charles, do I have that kind of
I
right?
think so.
And it would help to get clarification from Fred Fox, like, what are the grants that you will do that we don't have to pay for? I mean, that we wouldn't have to pay you to write the grant. Because I think we would need to be very selective about that. Then Jetco Solutions, they're small, they're from out of state. I noticed they do great research, but they look like they only use grants.gov. And I'm assuming that's all federal. But they have, I don't know, they have like a flat fee for doing research for you. So I put a little note, I wouldn't throw those out. The others to me were quite expensive and were not Florida-based. And as Commissioner Lori mentioned, they seem to do more with the bigger grants that probably aren't an option for us. I thought the one based in California, Evans Brooks, was very, very expensive. So to me, I think Guardian potentially has something to offer us. Fred Fox, we have a relationship with. I'd like to know what more could they do for us? What other grants would they suggest? And then Jetco, I mean, because Charles, you said we could actually accept their offer in some way, but not necessarily use them, is that right?
Correct, it's a continuing services agreement, so then we would reach out to them when we wanted to work.
I think the top three have something to offer us. And then finally, I think we mentioned this before at a different meeting. I learned a lot about what grants are out there, and I would like to ask Fred Fox. Some of them on his list, some of them on the Guardian list that they've gotten. I thought Guardian, I noticed, did list a project for the CDD, Community Development, whatever the D stands for. District, Community Development District, and also they did a grant for the city for a public-private partnership project. I thought that was interesting. So to me, I think we have more work to do, and in particular, finding out more about what some of these listed grants are. There are a lot of rural development grants. I don't know what they are. There's rural development, there's Department of Economic Opportunity, these are all state things. I think this is good information for us, and, I would like to see us investigate some kind of relationship, particularly with the top two, maybe that third one, Jetco, and then find out more about all these kind of grants that other people are getting.
Good.
I'm good. Any thoughts?
Commissioner Banks?
Yeah, well, I was listening to our city manager say our finance situation, we are in our finance area. Is the city gonna be able to support a grant right beside Tim Fox? You know, Tim Fox has always been there and, been kind of, reasonable. If we gonna be able to step above that, surely, I really, every time I ride by that school, it's just on my heart, I just wish we just could go and say, hey, we need to get a grant, and we really do to get it. And how much do we want the whole school, or what are we gonna set our target at?
We're gonna discuss that after.
Yeah, that's next.
That's
Oh, well, that's
good.
next
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead. But,
Well, because you're talking about our budget that's gonna come up with all these.
That's gonna be all of it.
Well, we could spread the burden. So for instance, if we had an agreement with one of these firms and they said, well, there's a water plant grant out there, and it will cost X dollars to apply. If we want it, and they feel like they can get it, we could assign that to the water fund. So it wouldn't be a general fund burden. My statement earlier was that to pay a retainer, or general funds, general grants would be a general fund expenditure, and we have a lot of new general fund expenses anticipated for next year. But if we were specific, a wastewater grant, a water grant, that we could put into those funds, take the burden off the general fund would be a possibility.
but that's what we need to try to do. And I think this meeting basically today is to brainstorm and try to come up with a way.
Well, today is to talk like you're doing, how you like these companies. When we make a selection, we need to have our scoring back that up. We're gonna ask how, let's say those that may not be selected, want to know how they did, so they can improve their performance in the future. And you may decide to have an agreement with several companies ongoingly, and then come back to you with requests to look for grants and so forth. So today is just to talk it out like we're doing, keep your feelings. We may sense a consensus of firms 1, 2, and 3. We'd like to move forward with them, and then you'll get to vote on that next Thursday. But today is to talk it out and get a sense of what your direction will be next Thursday. And I'll notify those firms. If you want any of them to come talk to us, I would give them a week's notice to make arrangements.
Talk to us,
Yeah.
explain.
Commissioner Burton?
I don't know.
Yeah. My, in looking these over, the 3 of the bond, the Jack had out of books and 2 of it, just like Commissioner Lori said, it seemed to me like their focus was more on your federal grants. They're all out of state, one's out of Michigan, one's out of California, the other one's out of Maryland. And so I don't know how familiar they are with Florida and our needs here and looking for the grants that are available for us. And as far as what we need, because oftentimes what we need is very different from what they need in California or what they need in Michigan. So that concerned me. Guardian, I did notice that is, looks like they've done some work for Newport Richie, and I don't know if you've spoken to Debbie or anybody down in Newport Richie to see what their thoughts were on that. Have we spoken to Fred Fox to see if by chance, knowing that's what we're looking for, is somebody to be a little more proactive on our behalf? Have we spoken to him to see if that's something that he possibly could
I mean, it looks
provide?
it does say in the proposal that they would have a meeting and talk to us and get some direction, which, I mean, they haven't been doing that up till now.
Yeah,
Although
I understood that if we had something that we desperately wanted them to look at, that they definitely could go ahead and do that.
It's in my.
Thank
you.
That's the way I read that, that if we went to them and said, look, we want you to look for, grants for this project, that they would actually go out and research that for nothing. And I think that that's important, nothing is good. And then, again, any grant writer, this way, you've all kind of said the same way I feel, so, but anytime you write a grant, you're not guaranteed that grant. So if any grant writer is only gonna try and write the grants that they're gonna get paid for. So, you always have to keep that in mind.
I think what I was, and I understand what you're saying, that that's what he said, but there's something we don't even know we need.
Yeah.
That Fred would know that, to look at, and he could just bring it to our attention, listen, I don't know if this is something that I feel like, you should possibly look at this, just based on what's going on in Crescent City. And that's where I would wanna know if Fred would be willing, if that's something that Fred would be willing to do, if he has the staff capability to do that.
And we could ask him to come talk to us about that at the meeting next week.
Well, I think Commissioner Banks just mentioned something, possibly, I thought I had found a grant for the school, and, that's something maybe, they could help us with. I don't know.
But yes, Commissioner DeVito.
So, I think just to follow up on what's been said about Fred Fox, I really think it's important to ask him for categories of grants that he's willing to do without being paid up front. And I think there's gonna be like a 2-column thing on that. Some he would need to be paid, and some he will just apply because he's gonna be paid administrative fees. And we need to get clarification on that.
And I in no way meant for him to do it for free, he's not gonna do it for free.
No, but I'm saying, we
Right.
need to know from
But I
him.
think from an hourly basis, if he has staff, that he could send this out to you, say, listen, Charles, this is how much it would cost for us to look at for somebody.
And Mayor, but to me, it would just be helpful to have him tell us, these are grants that I would do for whatever it is, the percentage that I won't charge you up front. There may be more than for admin CDBG. I think it's important to pursue, help with grants simply because, as Commissioner Banks mentioned, I think the grants are going to have to be somehow helping us either directly or indirectly for the Miller Middle School property. The other thing I wanted to ask both City Manager and Commissioner Burton is, we have the 2 licenses with eCivis. I attended the online webinar about eCivis. There's certain things we get for free and certain things we don't, but we get 2 licenses. Any more licenses, you have to pay $250 for. So I wondered if Commissioner Burton could share with us what are you doing? What are you accessing? Can you tell it to only show you certain things, or how do you use eCivis?
There's many different ways that you can pull up to look for grants, and, I happen to use one, geez, what's the name of it? I kind of forget, it's like, I'm a push button kind of drill now, but basically how it works is I pay $199 every year for access.
To eCivis?
No, to another, one for grants. And so what it does for me though is it takes it and it puts it all into, state, puts it federal, puts it in government, it puts everything in an order in which I want to look at them. And then, of course, it's for, it's not for profit, it's for business, it's for individual, it's all different types of things that you may want. And then it says, it gives you categories. And if you find something that you really want to do, they do offer grant writers. If you go and you talk to people and say, is this what you really want? okay, you can now have, them, a grant writer come in and help you with that project. I like it because I can find a lot of different things, and I found a lot of small grants, I find big grants, I find all kinds of things in it. So I do it for fun.
Are you not using the eCivis access that you have?
The e-civics is not, it doesn't separate things out quickly. You have to really go through a lot of stuff and be able to separate all that out. And so, for me, because I'm lazy, I think it's worth my $199 to have that be easier for me to do, that's all.
Well, Charles, do you use eService?
I get almost daily, the eCivis
yeah.
sends me this braggart thing, and it's just, you have to really read, like, this is a great grant. Well, you have to be a tribe in Oklahoma to be eligible for that grant. So you have to read every single line to see what the qualification of the grant, and most of it's very tightly qualified, and it's private trusts, so it's like a fire hose of
I
information.
found that when it first came out, and we were looking through it, that it was like, this is if you're in Chicago, or this is you're somewhere else, and it just was hard to, you had to really spend you have to spend a lot of time in it, you have to spend a lot of time in it.
But we get 2 licenses, so you have one.
So we could, if you're not using yours, we could transfer it. If somebody else wants to try it for a
I
while.
don't think she has it.
I don't have that.
eCivis.
I don't
No,
have
and
these.
that's what I was trying to say. is-
Well, wait a minute,
Okay,
I wouldn't pay the money for these.
but after the webinar,
that's not it. I asked about eCivis 2 years ago, and they said, your employee Cynthia Burton has one of the licenses. So they said you can pay $250 more to have another license. They said Charles Brad and Cindy
I just
Burton
have to go in and change the name.
have the 2 licenses.
That's all right, then.
Probably that's when it first came out, we were first looking at it, and we might have signed up, I mean, I know I was able to go into it initially, so, I mean, maybe if they signed, we somehow, the commissioner firm signed up and looked into it.
when
But
after,
but I found it a very difficult program to use.
but after the webinar that you and I both, separately, attended, I emailed them to find out, and they sent me the information to sign up. So I assumed that there was an extra license.
Well, I
If you
guess,
just emailed that help thing that they were talking about, they can tell you, I emailed them to see. And I
I'll
thought,
tell you what, I'll give up my license tomorrow.
I haven't signed into it yet, but I mean,
I'll take a look at it.
Is that the one that you, cause I sat through one with them probably a year and a half, 2 years ago.
yeah, it's just
Just
like
very
2 weeks out, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay.
and what I'm still not clear on, and I cannot remember, unless I go back and look at my notes, there's different levels of eCivis, is that not correct?
Well, there's like
The basic
the basic one, which is to search through all the grants.
for
If you
2
want to do
licenses.
if you want to do the additional thing that does grant administration, all that, that's the only thing you have to pay more for. So there are the 2 included grants that my town our size has through our Florida Living Cities.
Yeah, there's another level. And I'll have to go back and look at my notes, and I think it's still up. Can't we all just access the webinar now on the website?
Yeah, it should be on.
Yeah,
Florida Living Cities.
there's another level, I forget how much it costs, it's not free, and you get more help, I still don't know if it's the kind of help we need, but anyway, I'm not suggesting that Commissioner Burton not have the eCivis license, except that she's not using it, that,
Yeah, I
Just
didn't
seemed like a waste.
realize, I honestly did not realize that I was licensed. I know I signed up, and I didn't realize that it was for a license.
right,
So I apologize about that, it wasn't made clear.
it's okay,
And I can,
as you say, it's not considered. My last question for Commissioner Burton is, very good for you for going out to find a place that you can search grants for $199 a year. What's the name of the company?
I'll get that
She
for you.
said she couldn't remember, but
Okay.
Commissioner Banks, it sounded like you, or looked like you were.
Yes, but down through the years, Tim Fox firm been very gracious toward our community and the citizens in this community. And so I would think that we could communicate with him and get him to come. I would have liked to have him here today and to help us, ramble through this process that what we are trying to do. Well, he's been very, very gracious down through the years and he done saved the city And the citizens of the city, a lot of money for different grants that he have reached out and got funds. So I would think that he would be gracious, the Senate representative, he would come personally himself. That's just how involved he gets in.
Mayor, I have a question about that for the city manager.
Yes.
So as far as having Fred Fox come and talk to us, since we haven't turned in our score sheets yet, can we, in other words, since we're still turning in our score sheets, is it appropriate, would it cause any problems with the RFP to ask Mr. Fox to come to the next meeting, or would we have to do that after we turn in our score sheets?
No, there's a line in the RFP about, the city commission reserves the right to throw out all the, all the input. They can, disregard any irregularities. They can ask people to come speak. You have the ability to do what you want to get the
Okay,
result.
so it doesn't matter the timing of it, or like if we ask Fred, we don't have to ask any of the others.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, but I agree with Commissioner Ray, because I certainly would like to hear, and I've never met Mr. Fox in person.
Yeah, he's been here.
Well, I don't remember which one he was, but, he knows us very well, he knows our community, and he's done a lot of work for us. And other communities.
Yes.
One thing
Commissioner Lori.
I would add, is from my former commissionership in 2003, we did have, Fred Fox was doing our grants then, and we also brought aboard another firm, it was Jordan Associates, who, I think it's Jordan, that's now works for Northeast Florida League of Cities.
Oh, yes,
Betsy, yeah.
yes, Jordan.
But she came aboard, and it kind of helped a little while to have the two of them, because they were kind of, I think it motivated the other side, it was a competition in a way. And it kind of helped me get quite a few more grant applications done and grants that next year. So I don't think it would be bad. I like the fact that having Fred back down here, or David, I guess is his son, right? To talk to us and possibly still, I think, with someone else and getting them to, because Fred Fox is gonna look for the stuff that he knows. And he does know Crescent City very well, and he knows the FERDAP program and the CDBG program. But I think we need to cast our net a little wider too.
Yeah.
So if we can get him to do that, that would be great, because he is familiar with everything. But I don't mind getting somebody else on board too.
And I think with that, with Guardian, Charles, you might reach out to Guardian and see if they wanna come in and do their presentation also. I know that's take about an hour, 45 to get here, 2 hours.
Maybe it's a
They said, but,
worth it.
or they even, they could even do it on, we could Zoom in if it's more for them, but I think just in fairness, especially if we know that we could, with two different companies, just depending. I still think though that it doesn't give us what we're necessarily, we have grants, we have, we've been applying for grants, it doesn't give us what the commission has been talking about, and that's somebody that's actually actively pursuing things that will benefit the city. And so, that's just something I think that you need to, as you go forward with both Guardian and Fred Fox, to know that's really kind of why we're here today. Because, like I said, they've been doing that, Mid-Hour's been doing that for us too, that Mid-Hour do some of that for us also.
They do write grants for us.
So it's not that we're not getting grants written, it's, we're looking for those grants that we're not having written, that we're not looking into to apply to the city, that we don't even know we need.
Mayor, just one thing, when, talking about, looking for more things and having more help, I'm so glad that Commissioner Roy mentioned that one time we had, Betsy Jordan.
Betsy did it.
So what occurred to me was, there might be smaller operations out there who didn't necessarily, maybe they don't look for RFPs, maybe they get business by word of mouth. Was Betsy Jordan a small op or?
Yes.
To what, okay, so it occurred to me, maybe we should ask Betsy and other small cities, when we come into contact or pick up the phone and get some calls, can you guys can you guys recommend somebody who's like a researcher or a grant writer who's, you know, like a small operations person?
And when Commissioner Lori even mentioned Betsy, I was like, I didn't even think about that, but that's something that somebody might want to, you know,
I mean, we've done a grant research.
moonlight, you know, with us a couple of hours a month, you know, however, and to have somebody like Betsy come in and talk to us about what that would entail. You know, I mean, or to have.
Because finding the grants, you know, is one thing, but we can hand them off to someone else to write it.
Right,
So
yeah.
that might actually be.
Finding takes a lot of time, but
Yeah.
I think it's worth our while, if there's other commissioners that we come into contact with or have met from small cities, you could just send them an email, say, do you know of any local area grant writers that you could recommend to us? Because I know Hawthorne gets a lot of grants, I don't know who writes them.
So I think, okay, so with this discussion, you know, the scoring sheet, I'll be honest with you, in fairness, to give them our scoring sheet, just because it was difficult to pull some of that information out.
Yes,
Exactly,
Yes,
and
that's
to
right.
actually give them a proper score on it. You know, we're not grant writers, we don't have that expertise, and I felt like some of this, we would need that qualifications of key personnel. Yeah, some of them had, you know, they had gotten I think they'd gotten over $1 billion in grants, and I'm like, yeah, I like that person, you know? That doesn't mean that, that needs to be, you know, how do you score that? There was a newer one, the Jetco, they seem to be a younger firm. And so I don't think that's apples and oranges for how much they've gotten in comparison, so I don't know I don't know how the commission feels about this, but, when I was scoring them, it was, and a lot of them, some of them I just put unknown, it was unknown. Their experience identifying potential grants, we don't,
We don't know what,
yeah,
all the potential that's out there, you know, how.
and we don't know how they've been interacting with municipalities, so.
I just looked at what they told us. I mean, one thing I noticed, I could not find in there where it said availability to start. Qualifications of key personnel, that was, I thought that was pretty easy. You could, you know, look at the resumes, years, availability and depth of staff and resources. I felt like, you know, when you say depth of staff, that seems to relate to numbers and experience. And then some of these, they all seemed very professional and I thought, you know, at a high level, and that experience identifying potential grants, I just looked at what they told us in the papers. Because you're right, there's no way you can know beyond that. But I do have a request of our city manager, if we ever do this again. Is it number one, because some of them didn't respond to this, you asked for examples of their work. Please don't ever do that again. It made the packet too thick. I mean, I understand the reason you would ask. And the other thing is, for some of these things that we wanted them to do, like when you do the RFP, can you have them fill out a box for some of that basic stuff, like when are you available to start, or what, you know, like to have them put some of the stuff in the boxes. I mean, you learn something from the way they set up the package, but it was a lot of paper, especially I thought Guardian was the fast.
Guardian was, but I actually that was more beneficial to me to be able to see what they've been doing,
Yes.
so that didn't bother me, and it showed who was more thorough than, you know.
But if they could sum it up in a box and tell us what page number some of that stuff is on, then I would love it. So, but anyway,
Okay, so with that, it sounds like right now, commission, I think, let's have somewhat of a consensus that we're looking at Guardian and Fred Fox. Are we looking to bring any of the other three from LSD in for discussion at all?
I mean, I was partial to Jetco, the rest of them, I liked them, I felt they, you know, they had a good variety of stuff that I hadn't even heard of some of them, so I was like, well, it can be helpful. But I definitely think Fred Fox and Guardian, I'd like to hear from
I would not mind hearing from Jetco because my, feeling about them is, as you said, Mayor, they are a newer firm, they're younger. But there are some, they're not quite as expensive.
Mhm.
And there are some services that maybe we could take advantage of. I think it's early days to know exactly what we're going to want.
Well, but it looks to me like, so Charles, with this, because Jetco to me, if that's a retainer, it sounds like, is that 2,000 a month? Was that the retainer?
I'll have to, yeah.
Put them on retainer,
Yes, plus time and materials.
Right.
Instead of average, it'd be $9,000 per submission. They would apply for grants.
No,
Which,
not, I'll just say 90.
that's, I'm not saying we could use them for that, I'm not saying, I'm not saying we could afford a retainer, but I would not mind hearing from them.
Let's see,
Well, if you don't do the retainer, sometimes they don't do the work, so.
Right.
well, I think if you do reach out to them, Charles, you might wanna just make sure that they're aware that the retainer might not be an option, but if they want to look for grants, if that's
So,
just
yeah, see if
something, if they want to work out some sort of,
So I was selling on Fox, and what's the second one that,
Guardian.
Guardian?
And I like that they're Dade City, which
See if they can be here in person as well.
I used to get
Jetco on Zoom, if we can Zoom them in.
Jetco.
Yeah, Jetco, it's there in Grand Rapids.
If somebody had let us know already that they wanna charge $9,000,
No.
9,000.
$9,000.
Yeah, on average.
Per
Per
grant,
submission, yeah,
per grant,
per grant.
per grant.
So they're all expensive to
Yeah,
actually
Guardian,
apply
if
for
you
a
do the
grant.
same for that grant with Guardian's $10,000, so.
I don't think we'd use them for that, because, but my bad,
That's a free,
yeah, but
I think we need to talk to Tim first and go from there before we, try to, lure somebody from way, they gotta come a long way to do the presentation, go through all that. And the railroad, if the lack of St. Augustine, I know he's,
So,
St. Augustine is helping out, St. Augustine,
it used to be like.
he would be gracious to come to us,
But Commissioner,
yeah.
Mayor,
yes,
so I think we have to keep in mind that even if we told these people that we accepted their proposal, we're not required to use them for anything. We are not obligated.
not the first two,
Pardon?
not the first two, because there's no retainer.
Exactly. And so, if Jetco doesn't want to give us any of the options, we don't have to accept that. Right. So, but, I mean, in a way, to me, I would like to hear from Guardian. I mean, I'm fine if they do it by Zoom, because I think the more we learn, the better off we are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we won't use Fred Fox as our top person. I think it just, gives us a better understanding of what's out there and what different people, like DJ said, he felt like when Crescent City had two, that there was a little competition. I just think it would broaden our horizons a little bit. But no, Mr. Fox does things for us very economically, and that is very important and very successful.
It's been very successful, yeah.
Yeah, we don't wanna kick them to the curb.
Not absolute, not at all, no,
Like,
very
There's
appreciative.
also those Guardian fees,
Yeah.
that, for FERDAP as an example, that 10,000 comes out of the grant. I don't think that's an addition. Fred Fox gets a similar amount, but it's
It's
part of the
just-
grant award.
So, some clarification on that. So, I think they talked to us.
Well, it's my understanding though, that not all grants pay,
They don't.
pay the
Exactly.
grant writer,
Right.
that the person getting the grant would have to pay the grant writer. It doesn't always come out of the grant, that's what I'm saying.
And that's why I said, it's okay if I say this. I'd like to ask Fred, what of all the grants he does, which ones are the category where he can get paid out of the grant? And which ones are the category where we would, if we wanted one of those grants, we would have to pay him. I would really like to have that divided into two columns.
So let's set it up with Fred and Guardian, and Let's just do it.
And just go from there.
Yeah, and go from there.
Yeah,
I
right.
think we have, we're gonna take this course.
You good, Charles?
Got
You
it.
good with that? Okay, we're done, we're good with this?
Comment, public comments.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up, I just wanna make sure everybody's good.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comments at this time on this item. If you want to, have anything to say, please come forward, state your name and your address if you please. Karen, you've got our, thank you.
Michael Frank, 83 Lake Shore Drive. I think one of the criteria for grading the grant writer should be Florida-based. We don't need someone outside the state of Florida. That's my opinion. We should also reach out to Putnam County and perhaps the Putnam County schools to see if they have any grant writers on board that we could network with and learn what they have got going. Also, we can network with other local city managers of towns our size to see what success they've had with grant writers and who those people might be. I'm not familiar with Fred Fox, but from all I've heard here just this afternoon, I think he's our go-to guy to kind of pick his brain about what's successful for a town our size. So I'd reach out to him, I'd reach out to Putnam County to see if they have any grant writers, what their success rate is and what projects they've had success with, and also the Putnam County schools. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Do we have any other speakers at this time? Okay, no one else coming forward, I'm gonna close public comment, yes, Commissioner Benita?
Could we have a short break?
I was going to, I was gonna do a 5-minute break. So I'm gonna do a 5-minute recess before we go into our next topic.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna convene our workshop. For our recess, okay, I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Charles.
Thank you, Mayor. I did a little summary in the cover memo in your packet. For after your decision to, the city wanted to acquire the middle school property, I reached out to the school board and let them know, I need to know what that was gonna cost. And they said, well, let us huddle internally. They spoke and they got back to me. They did. And essentially invited us to make an offer. They said they're very interested in the city acquiring, probably very motivated. So, but sort of, this would be a negotiation process. So the first round will be you putting forth an offer. I did provide for some context of the experience Black had. They had, I think it's Jenkins up there was appraised at $4.16 million. City of Black offered $600,000 and their City Hall Annex building, and that offer was declined. So similarly, one of your decision points would be, do you want to acquire the entire piece or minus the portion that's currently on the market? So the entire property is appraised at $4.28 million. And the portion that's not on the market is appraised at $3.5 million. So that would be something for your consideration in making your first offer.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
Okay, we have a school that right now supposedly can't be a school. Supposedly needs to be totally revamped. It's on a pretty pricey piece of property, but so are some houses on that same type of property that go for a whole lot less than $4.2 million. So I'm wondering, why is it when they assess school property, the starting number is $4.2 million? Because even the one up in Palaco is not on prime property.
Right.
It was $4.2 million though. So do they just say, well, we're gonna sell the schools for $4.2 million?
Well, I think that's a lot more acreage.
Yeah, it's 12, this is 12 acres,
It's
actually,
like
almost
30.
12.
5 acres or something. It's a different size campus.
Yes,
To answer Commissioner Burt's question, the appraisal was done by a professional appraiser, but then they go through and they look at all those things like square footage and the building. But what they did is they compared it to, as its value as a charter school. And they used two comparable properties, one in Jacksonville and one in Orlando. And then they used that to derive the value of what that property would have. Which to me is completely flawed
Yes.
and is just, outrageous as far as the real value of it. Because, there would be, there has to be money invested in it. I mean, it's not usable as a school right now because, that's why the county is not having it as a school anymore. We know that. So I just think the appraisal is completely out of question as far as even a starting ground.
You can call them a professional appraisal, but wait a minute.
Without appraisal, without anything to compare it to, you're not really getting, it's just not even in the ballpark. But, my way of looking at this is, okay, we need to do a little bit more research. We need to do a lot more research. We need to do a lot more talking and negotiating. And I think that just going back and forth with you going to the school district is not gonna get us to where we need to go. No offense. But I talked before as a commissioner and for a long time now about having a panel of people that have some more experience and more background in this kind of a thing, getting together and being able to, negotiate and talk on our behalf and working on this besides, having to just put it all on your back and going back and forth between us. It is kind of bulky having to have the entire commission and a public meeting to discuss these things. But I think that there are some people with a lot more experience in real estate and law and real estate law that could probably help us out in this. We have a history with the school that goes back into the 1900s and that it was built, and as the Gilbert Institute, it was given with some strings to the state, to the school district. There's also property that was added on after that the school district did buy, but there were some strings attached to that too. In fact, even there's a Cypress Avenue that the city vacated and gave to the school district, has a reverter clause in it to return it to the city. So I mean, there's all kinds of things that we need to be looking at here as far as how to value that property. I mean, I don't think we need to even start with a number at the moment. We need to do some more work, some more legwork, and we need to approach this in a reasoned and, just a more thought out process. I don't think going back and forth with the number is gonna get us to where we need to go. Because we know that we're gonna be having to invest a lot of money in that property. We have to decide what we're gonna do with it, and we have to inspect it and get a structural engineer to tell us what it's gonna be and, or what's good and what's not, and how much it's gonna cost us. And I don't wanna rush into this and kind of tie up a lot more time, or really just blow it by, talking about getting a bond right now is just way ahead of the game. I think we need to do our work, do our homework, and go at this at a better angle, so. But I'm glad that we're talking about this.
Commissioner DeVito.
So my thoughts were, certainly I would like for us to make a favorable response to the school board. That we have heard that they're interested in having us acquire the property, or what was the exact word that you used, Charles? Enthusiastic, does that describe it? I think that's great. And I also have the feeling, Commissioner Lori used the words, we don't want to blow it. I would like to see this come to fruition. But to me, it's a big job. It's gonna take a lot of planning. It's gonna take many hands and many types of expertise. I was hoping when we first started discussing the whole issue of the school board vacating the site and the possibility of us, I mean, it's in our 5-year strategic plan. It's been there since 2021, that we have an aspiration to find another site for the school and to acquire that site. That's in our 5-year plan. I was hoping, based on some things the school board said, that this would not just be, hey, make us a specific offer. I was hoping they would work with us, both on time, and maybe make it a gradual turnover. I mean, I was hoping that they would work with us, and I would like us to think about some ways that they could work with us. And one thing to me we don't know is, they had said before they were going to plan to use parts of the property for a while. Can they give us an update on that? Are they completely done with it? Or would they still want, they mentioned they might need to use the auditorium and use the gym. So number one, I would certainly like to express to them our appreciation and our desire to acquire this property, and to find out how, if any, they could work with us. And I don't know again that we should put that all off on you. And I think also, it's very interesting, we have this master plan that's coming up. There's going to have to be other uses for the property, and I think we're gonna need partners. If we acquire that property, we're gonna need partners, other people who are interested in making use of that property, whether it's a nonprofit or, one or more nonprofits or some businesses. So I think the master plan process is important, and also just I'm hoping we can establish a relationship with the school board and really get a little bit of help with them, even if it's in kind.
Yes, sir.
I really think, Commissioner Vito and both of y'all is kind of on the same line. I think we need to get other people involved. what got the knowledge of certain areas, and get them to get a committee together and report back to us. And I think our city manager should be part of that, But I really think we need to get people with expertise, got this, different experience in certain portions of that. Hey, we commission, we don't know nothing about that. So I think we need to try to, I don't know how we're gonna be able to do it, try to get some people that are willing to work on that group, that got the knowledge of certain parts of it, real estate.
Well, it really could help us come up with a bid.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if I was to
Well, I
bid
think
right now, I'd say $1.380 and see what they said, because we don't have the knowledge. And that's what we need.
Yeah, we need some.
I think that's something where you come in and we look at, do we need to get a buyer's rep that's versed in this type of commercial real estate? We're not realtors, we can't practice real estate. I am, but we can't practice real estate. And so I just think that that's something that we need to think about, that having a buyer's rep, that would represent us, that's versed in this type of commercial activity. This is a little different than us going and buying a building to put a coffee shop in.
Yes.
This is a big purchase with a lot of components with it. And, I think if this is the direction we're gonna go, and with Commissioner DeVito, from what, you're saying, it's my understanding that Charles has already spoken to them, conveyed that we're trying to work this out. This is not on the market, my understanding, anytime soon, simply because they need it just in case they have to, use it. It's called a transitional, I think is what they're calling it, is transitional. In case something happens while they're working on the high school and there's some displaced students and they have to put students there, or the same thing with the elementary school. The elementary school right now is not scheduled to go online until, September or August of 2025, possibly closing down in June of 2025. And that's their projection right now. So, I think we have some time. There's nobody that we've heard of. Obviously, nobody's buying a vacant piece of property at this time. And so, I know, but they could. But if there's something that we could do, that we have right of first refusal,
Yes.
if we have something in place that they know that we are serious.
Well, and Mayor, that's one of the notes I wrote down, could we have an option or a right of first refusal, or give us a couple of years? We need to come up with some kind of stepped plan. And I think that's what, Commissioner Banks and Commissioner Lori have kind of referred to, bringing some people together. And also, I think some of our investigation needs to be potential grants, potential partners, and this is kind of awkward because it's an election year. And our representative, Bobby Payne, and our state senator are both termed out. So it's not like we have a specific person we can go to right now, but I would think this would be the kind of issue, that we would want, whoever gets elected, we would want to speak to them about. In fact, maybe we might want to talk to Representative Payne before he leaves in November and see if he could, because I think he has a good relationship with, both the outgoing senator and possibly.
And the speaker,
Yes.
yeah.
So in a way, to me, we need to start looking at all those possibilities. And, because we don't know what's gonna turn out.
And I think also, I think what Charles was with the bond referendum, that eventually we know that we're gonna have to, grants are not a sure thing. So us going forward with this and trying to buy it, saying that, based on, and renovate it based on grants. Oftentimes with those grants, we have to have matching funds. We don't have that. Some of this is gonna have to be financed, we know that. Regardless, whether we partner, regardless, I think some of it, and I think that's where, at least my thoughts is I cannot in good faith, look at putting us in debt without knowing that that's what our community, all the community really wants.
I agree.
And,
I agree with that.
and so I think that's something that I don't know, Charles, if we do this, when's the deadline to even do a bond referendum? When would it be?
It's too late to do this year.
Is it too late to do it this year, for November?
There's no way.
So it would have to be on the next ballot.
Well, I spoke to a firm that does it, they felt we could make November ballot.
Okay,
To get on the ballot, according to Charles Overturf, is August.
I still thought we still had time for that, I just didn't know when we had time, so. And so I don't know, I think that's, as we go down this road and start putting this money into it, that's just, that's my thoughts. I know in a perfect world, yes, absolutely, we would love to be there, we'd love to have a compound, hey, I'd love to have the fire department there, everybody there. But we're not in a perfect world, and so we've got to maneuver through this and make sure that all of the residents, or at least the majority, that's what we need, the majority of the residents feel that this is the direction the city needs to go in.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
if I could, don't you think we need to try to, get that committee together first before we go to looking at borrowing money and doing this and doing that?
You could appoint a committee next week.
Yeah,
Everyone comes back with
we need to form a committee,
names.
negotiate on the price.
Yes.
I think we're kicking the can down the road too quick.
Mhm.
Yeah, we need to get that committee together first.
Yes.
Yeah, and let them negotiate with, get back to us and with a price.
Yep.
Yeah, I really think we need to do that first, then we can go further. Once we get a committee together, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think that good Palaca kind of got off the square by not doing something like that first. They were so anxious, they want to reach out there and grab it, and they put a price and they got let down. But I think if we do it right, and it's gonna save time, we get that committee together. People with experience on that, and we got a lot of people, retired people in this community. I think we'll be very willing to serve on that committee and to help us, help the city.
I think that also what happened with that building, with the Jenkins purchase is they had an OIG report that came out from that Campbell when they did that Lift Putnam. Do you remember the Lift Putnam? You weren't part of that, okay. They had a Lift Putnam, which is a foundation, and I guess that was before they had the pre-K. And they gave it to them, I think, for $10, and they received an OIG report back that was very critical. So that probably with Jenkins didn't help, with some of their thinking that they didn't want to get into that type of a situation again. Now that Lift Putnam, my understanding, is now defunct.
Yeah.
You're saying the school board got a negative
Yeah.
report from the state
Yeah.
for giving that building away for cheaper.
For $10, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, we had this discussion before, and I believe state law allows them
It does.
to make gifts, certainly to another public entity. I didn't see I guess you're saying that's
That was a private foundation. It was.
right, that was a private foundation, but what is the OIG, is that an inspector general?
Yeah, I think it's the Office of Inspector General.
Right, so, I certainly would, actually, that must have been, what, 15 years ago?
And not.
No, it's
not-
not 2021.
Yeah, it's just.
Okay,
They transferred the generals in 2021.
I mean, actually, that would be the kind of thing that a committee could look at, or could share with us, I would like to see what it said.
Yeah, to make sure. And it used to be back in the day that if it was if it was a public building, that before they surplused it, they had to reach out to the
Yes.
other government entities to see if they had interest in it.
So here we are.
And that's what the federal.
Well, Mayor, we could create an application and immediately just post and advertise that we're looking for volunteers for a blue ribbon committee, has been referred, to assist us in the process, and then you all could sort through those, let's bring names of your own, encourage people to apply, and then make that decision on the 14th, appoint that committee.
I don't know that we're gonna have, does that allow us enough time next Thursday?
But we
Well, you could decide there aren't enough applicants, we could, but
can start.
that's another month.
We can start it, whatever that commission, at the will of the commission, so.
You can appoint 2 or 3, or you can appoint however many, and that would be a starting point.
The meeting starting point. Are we talking about doing it for next week?
For next week, you could do that,
I think I mean-
decision, and then you could add more members to it, people that
Yes.
hear about it late. could ask.
Do we, as far as the criterion, does it have to be somebody that lives within the city, or can it be somebody outside the city? I mean, that's something that,
That's up
as
to you.
far as the criteria,
I would not.
commission.
Look for expertise.
I'm not moving.
Well, that's what I'm making sure, so that we're not, everybody is on the same page.
That I would want on that committee, and he does not live in the city.
I know 2 people that don't live in the city that.
I got a person I would like to see on there, he don't live in Fulton County. But they got family in Fulton County, a lot of family in Fulton County. I definitely,
I can't hear what's being
Yeah,
said down there.
I definitely would like to.
Well, actually, I couldn't hear Commissioner Burton because she's been talking to her mic. I didn't know whether she said they need to live in the city
No,
or
she
they
said
don't.
they did not.
Okay, good, because I think we might
Consensus there.
limit our expertise tool. Is that what y'all are saying? I'm sorry, I just didn't catch it all.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, we can move forward with that, and, we'll get that posted tomorrow, and, start seeing who we can.
Would you, with this blue ribbon committee, is this something that if we decided, or if they decided, if they recommended we need a buyer's agent or somebody to represent us, I guess at that time, they would bring that recommendation back to us?
Yes.
Right, and also, I would assume that we want our city manager to be part of this.
Yeah, I stated that in the beginning.
Okay,
I can staff it, I'll be the staff.
Maybe staff.
okay.
And everything this committee does comes back to us for.
We will get sunshine conditions.
Try and keep us in the loop, sometimes I don't feel like we're in the loop as things are kind of happening, so it would be nice to be kept in the loop.
Well, this will be a sunshine committee.
Yeah.
So the meetings will be publicly noticed,
Oh, yeah,
and it's,
got it.
It would have to be,
And then just if we could have like a commission
get a
update,
report.
we'll get a report at the commission meetings. Does that take care of your concern, Commissioner Burton? Yeah. Okay, Commissioner DeVito?
And then, since we are having a workshop on this topic, I don't know, I feel like we need to send some kind of message back to the school district, because I don't know who Charles exactly is dealing with, is that
Mr. Bowman.
Mr. Bowling? Okay, so has this come before the school board at all?
No,
I don't know what's happened over there.
no, it has not.
Okay, you know for sure
Vacation.
that it
I
hasn't.
can communicate to him your decision, or we are moving forward.
We are moving forward.
Very interested, and
Performing
just
committee.
getting our, we want to get an offer together that makes sense, and that we hope that they'll accept.
And my understanding is when an offer is made, he will take, if he feels that, if they feel that it's an adequate offer, then they'll take it to the board for approval.
I mean, I just, it wasn't clear from the memo, but I guess, my hope would be that the message we convey is very positive and appreciative, and like we're, working hard, and trying to get things done. But, well, I don't know, I guess that's all we need to
Do we have
say.
anything more on this? Well, I open it up for public comment.
Well, I do have a question. We have not one, but 2 schools that are being vacated. have, and there's the provision for the, I forget the name of it, but there's the interlocal agreement that provides for committees to meet. Have there been any more meetings? I know you went to a meeting, Commissioner Ward. Were you a commissioner?
I was not a commissioner.
Okay, when you were
I was
just,
just teaching.
as a citizen,
You're still just BJ.
you attended. Have there been any more meetings under the interlocal agreement?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, because as well, you know, Middleton Burning is being vacated there, and that affects us. So I'm gonna go back and look at the interlocal agreement and see what does it say about, you know, involving the city when we're vacating the school. Because it's, I know it says something.
It wasn't.
And that's gonna create another problem for us, really.
Or an opportunity.
Or an opportunity.
This is an opportunity.
Yeah,
The, at that meeting in July, we're going to rework the interlocal agreement, and you haven't received anything from them about that? Okay. Alright.
yeah, I had that on my list for,
That was just.
in our mayors, because I think that's been all the.
Oh, yeah, it's gotta come back before the county commission and all the municipalities to be reapproved and changes.
Well, let's do that, let's work on.
Let's work on one thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
And let's make sure that as we try to build this relationship back with the school district, that we're not, you know, we have to be conscious, yes,
They're trying to
yes.
solve the problem down.
Well, I got you together, we did a survey on, dates for the master plan workshop. I got 4 responses. I can't tell who responded.
I
It
know,
looks like the 19th.
Of what?
Of March was the favored, date, 3 PM on the 19th.
Which one is this?
The master plan, so Benoit will come and present the master plan, so we'll have nothing else on the agenda, just.
at 3 p.m., is that really how we want to kick off spring?
I won't be there, because I gotta go see about my eyes.
Yeah, I don't think I got this.
I do want to see.
I got it.
I got 2 responses to it.
I don't think I
So what's the other dates we have?
Next time you do it, maybe you need to put in there a square so you can put our names in it.
That's a good idea. It just shows me your IP address, who responded. There were 4 responses so far.
And I-
There was another date, which was,
Give me my IP address.
there were 2 dates where I had 100% availability.
I don't think I saw that there was a survey. I was gonna ask about that. I saw an email from you, but I don't think I picked up on the fact that there was a link.
Yeah, just.
I think the 27th was the other date, 3 PM.
I'm good on that.
27,
On Wednesday?
I can handle that with the
No.
19th, July, I gotta go see my.
I don't think so,
That's
no.
a Wednesday, you can't do Wednesdays, can you?
No,
Yeah.
and,
We're at 3 o'clock, I did.
Yeah, so.
and I cannot do that Wednesday.
Which one? The 27th?
No, I cannot do the 27th. I could do the 19th, but Commissioner Banks can't be there.
What about the 20th, the next day?
I could do that.
Only had 2 days where 4 of you could make it.
Right, I'm just saying, I know it's.
That afternoon, the 20th, that afternoon, we have chamber at noon that day.
I'll go back and look at the results, but we'll,
Now, on the 19th, if we have it
You wanna
early,
resubmit it to us
Yeah, resubmit it.
yeah,
and take the 19th
I'm
out?
trying to coordinate the consultant being there.
Okay, take
He
the
could do the
19th,
19th.
he can.
You can do it earlier that day?
yeah, I could do it early, my eye appointment into 4:15 for that.
We need to leave at
11
3:30.
or something.
So if we're,
1 o'clock.
No.
No.
No,
Yeah, you get 2
2
hours.
hours and then give them plenty
or
of time.
noon, you could do it at noon,
Noon.
Fiji.
Yeah.
Yeah. we can do
Do the lunch, start the lunch meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be good,
There you go.
If you feed them, they will come.
yeah.
So March 19th, is everybody in agreement with
Is
that?
everybody in agreement on noon on March 19th?
And what time now?
Noon,
Yeah, okay, I do the time,
I'll make sure that, I'll reach out to the consultant, make sure he can be.
make sure we can do.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, is that it? Before I open it up for public comment? Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comment at this time. Please come forward, state your name and your address if you will. You have 3 minutes. We're clerk to keep the clock.
Rebecca, give him a little longer.
Good afternoon, my name is Danny Miller. My address is 1400 Sunset Drive in Winter Park. I'm a Crescent City native and taxpayer. I would respectfully ask that you turn the camera off.
Yeah, we don't need to.
This is important to me, and it's really impossible to speak to it in a minute. Thank you, I appreciate that indulgence. As y'all know, this is something that I've spoken with you many times, and I've tried my best to kind of keep up and to be informed, and I come to it with some real estate and development experience, so, to kind of set quick background, just some very quick comments on the appraisal. The appraisal really can't be relied upon. There are condition issues. They said the school's in wonderful condition. The comps, as Commissioner Lowry noted, are terrible. There are potential complications, interlocal agreement. There's history and title issues. There's going to be gray areas all over the title. There's going to be development issues. And so I'd respectfully suggest that any conversation of an offer is way premature. Rather, we should look for a partnership opportunity with the school district and approach it from that standpoint. Okay, don't want to get bogged down on that. I want to speak to the theme that I heard expressed by I think all commissioners, which is to kind of a collaborative approach to this. Many of us have probably served at some point in our professional career on a task force, on a working group, a blue ribbon committee. And such groups are typically formed to meet a big challenge, to solve a big problem, to realize a bold vision, something big, like the preservation and repurposing of the school. I think all of us recognize that that vision for the school will be a monumental task. People serving on such a blue ribbon committee, for lack of a better term, they must be passionate about what they're doing. They gotta be 110% committed. They have to be qualified, and that's critically important. They have to be qualified and able. I heard mention that you will put out a request. If that approach is taken as opposed to identifying talent and inviting them to join, you really may need to state qualifications, because some folks are going to apply and they're going to be disappointed. And really what we want is community-wide support. The people who are on such a blue ribbon committee have to be representative of the stakeholders and affected parties. And as such, they're able to each bring their unique perspective to the project. Another critical thing I heard mentioned, they have to have often specialized skill sets. Difficult to find often in a small community. We've got some here, we've got some very qualified, retired folks in their respective fields, but often you have to backfill as necessary where that talent is just not available by bringing in an outsider, maybe a hired hand of sorts. So this blue ribbon committee, why is this used on big projects successfully? Fundamentally, no one of us is as smart as all of us. We each bring unique perspectives, fresh perspectives that any small group might miss on. And then, of course, you bring the varied skill sets. That, by harnessing that synergy, we bring kind of common cause, and everybody has a vested interest in it, as opposed to, here's the plan, and it's kind of, people might feel it's a little imposed, or they didn't have the opportunity for input. Okay, what would such a blue ribbon committee actually do? They define the objective and collaboratively come up with a solution. Create that plan collaboratively, and create a timeline. Now, I mentioned a partnership with school district. Do we really know what their objective is? I heard some questions. Gee, what do they want? When do they want it? So we have to begin by understanding what the school district's objectives are, what their timeline for that is, because if we're gonna have a true partnership with them, we've got to mesh with them. Make them our partner. It's not as simple as just here, how much will you take for the property? So this Blue Ribbon Committee creates a plan. The commission's in the driver's seat. Adjustments are made, and eventually the commission hopefully would approve this plan. So the group kind of does a tell and sell all the way along the line. And with regular reporting. It has to be very disciplined, smart, methodical process. And then they implement the plan, again, under the direction and control of the commission, but the group ideally would be responsible and accountable for what they do. And then at the end, of course, what's left is to celebrate its success. So I mentioned that to preserve and repurpose the historic school is a monumental task. I believe very strongly that to realize that vision and achieve the success, it requires this task force approach. So, laid all this out, we have this challenge. I told you a couple of years ago, I now come before you, talking about a problem or a challenge without proposing a solution, making recommendations. Without that, simply whining. I'd recommend that one of y'all, and Commissioner Laurie springs to mind, go out and talk to people in the community who, there are leaders in the community. There are people who have great wisdom, who have great experience, who can really bring something important to this and ask, gee, how might such a Blue Ribbon Committee work? Do you see yourself having a role in this? Is there someone else that you might recommend to me that could fill this need? We want to be representative of the various viewpoints, and then to come back and, also to find out those outside resources, identify them, and then to come back, say in 60 days, perhaps in another workshop format, and give a specific recommendation to this committee. But to just kind of throw it open, I think doesn't give due weight to really what's needed. It's critical that people be able and have the practical experience and training to meet the need. One last comment. The school boards are responsible to the school board. I agree, we need to give them something. There is no sense of urgency that I see. It's not a red hot real estate market out there. That school property has tremendous complications. I would suggest that anything like an option is premature, and that perhaps instead someone who's perhaps close to the school district, perhaps Charles and John Newbold springs to mind. He's close to the school district. Just sit down and say, we're working on it, we're working hard on it. We'll get back with you as soon as we can. And but please assure us, just get their assurance that should you ever consider listing it, please give us a heads up first, because this is an opportunity for both the school district and us. And we don't want to be running and playing catch up, which frankly we're doing now after 3 years. Thank you. You've been so indulgent with your time, and I appreciate it. I hope this is now. Thank you.
Do you have any other speakers at the time?
Michael Frank, 83 Lakeshore Drive. I wanted to offer myself as a volunteer for this Blue Ribbon Committee, because in my career as an architect, I've done numerous schools from elementary to middle to high school to universities. I think I'd be a valuable asset to be part of that committee and team. And I think we should open it up to everyone that wants to be a part of the committee, not a select few. You just don't know where you're gonna get a really good comment from someone you would never suspect it from. So, and that engages your community. And I think everyone would like to see that school transition to this city admin building and maybe historical society and the original part of that, and multiple uses for the existing buildings there. So primarily, I just wanted to offer my expertise, my experience to be a part of that committee. So, yeah, I'll leave you with one last comment. Let's not rush to failure. Let's take our time and do this right.
Amen.
Thank you.
And I hope that from this workshop, from the comments I'm hearing from the audience, that I think that's kind of the attitude that we're also taking, is that we wanna make sure we're doing it right and that, we're not rushing into this, and I don't think the school board is, the school district's gonna rush into it either, so, I just hope, that was my takeaway, commissioners, I hope you feel the same way. So I just wanna make sure that we stated that. Yes, sir, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I first want to say,
Could you introduce yourself, please?
oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Always need help. Welcome. Dan Dodge, 218 South Main Street,
Thank you.
Crescent City. I want to compliment this commission on their thoughts and comments tonight. I want to thank Charles for bringing this to this point, for introducing it, and meeting with the school board. I know that our community are going to be so proud of this conversation today and the wisdom set forth by each and every one of you. This is starting a very important process that the majority of our citizens have great passion for, and the city has a need for. And so I'm very excited about it. And I think that you're wise to analyze the data and formulate a plan, because it's complicated. And I've dealt with many appraisals, and the comments that you spoke up about, you're dead right. And being a seller of property, commercial property, and a buyer of commercial property, it's two ways. Certainly, if you're selling it, you want to put the best foot forward. As a purchaser, you want to get it for the best dollar. And again, the path you're taking, I think, is very wise, and it's very encouraging. I don't think you're going to have any problem at all finding volunteers to serve on this committee. And once again, I'm very excited about it. Thank you all again very much.
Thank you for your comments. We have any other speakers? Yes, Commissioner DeVito.
When everyone has had a chance to speak, I have a couple of thoughts that I would like to share with the commission on a couple of comments about the task force.
Do we have any other speakers at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'm gonna close public comment. Yes, Commissioner DeVito.
So, first of all, I feel very blessed that we had people come and sit through the meeting and speak to us. I thank them all, and they all offered different things. First of all, Dan Dodge offered enthusiasm, because I think when we look at this, I was very enthusiastic about Charles' initiative, but then we get bogged down in details and I kind of lost my enthusiasm. So Dan Dodge reminded me that this is a very happy thing, that we are talking about it, and that we are making plans. That was wonderful. As well, Danny Miller made a lot of very specific, practical suggestions. He talked about expertise. I agree with that. Just a couple of things. I think it's important important to consider when putting this committee together. And also Mr. Frank said he suggested we cast a wider net. My observation about a committee, and heaven knows I have served on enough committees, neighborhood committees, statewide committees, church committees. This is going to be a public meeting. So since it's a public meeting, to me, I think, sorry, well, going back a minute, Dan Miller talked about different viewpoints. I kind of, certainly, people will have different viewpoints about the direction, but I think the main purpose of this and all the people who serve, the whole purpose of this is to figure out how we can best acquire this property. And so to me,
Right.
the different viewpoints, if you're not on board for acquiring the property and figuring out the best way to help us to do it, then I don't think this committee is for you. You should come and talk to the commission later. So to me, it needs to be core people who want to get this done, people who have the expertise. I think if we're not sure that you have the expertise, maybe we should just invite you to come to the meetings that are going to be held, that are going to be open and speak, and we can always appoint more people at that time. But I'm more concerned about getting the people with expertise to task them with the responsibility, and then let everybody come, let everybody volunteer, and maybe they'll tell us, hey, we need more people. So that's just my thoughts on how to go about it after listening to our really wonderful public comment speakers. That was great.
Any other comments, Commissioner?
No, I'm very pleased with the way we approaching it. I'm sure that I really I'm hoping that they get it online because I'm not seeking re-election. But I wanna make sure that the city get that property down there. But don't, I might have to run again. Okay.
That's gonna, that's gonna be out there now.
Well, that was the pressure, that's good.
I think we talked about earlier, some sort of an option, and I understand what Mr. Miller was saying, is that, we don't know that somebody won't go to them and make an offer, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to the district and to the taxpayers, and so I think somehow or another, we need to make sure that we do get some sort of opportunity, right? First refusal, I mean, you got charter schools out there right now, and so you never know if somebody's gonna come in there and make an offer to them. I know that's not the direction they would want to go. I know they very much want to work with us on this, but I think maybe if our attorney talks to their attorney.
Well,
Of course, no, we can't do that because our attorney is we have a conflict there. That's an issue too. I forgot about that. We now have a conflict because Dawn is their attorney. Dawn Jones is their attorney and Bobby Pickens is our attorney. So,
Well, one thing that would help, we've all talked about expertise. If you could just share a little bit, other than the obvious, you've mentioned real estate and development, architecture. What other things would you consider relevant expertise? So someone, we could maybe put a summary on the application. Maybe check the box, what kind of background you have that makes, provide good input to the committee.
I wrote some things down.
no, did you?
I did. You're stunned, I know.
Would you share those with us, please?
Yes, I did. So I was just, that's Mr. Miller was talking, I was thinking, so obviously, real estate, my thoughts are planning, having served on a committee of this type where you're with a specific goal in mind. Business, I would think would be one.
Business owner,
I would say business management, yes, that Commissioner Lori took the words right out of my mouth. Anyone with a higher level planning background.
I like land planning.
Land use planning, business planning,
Financial planning,
finance, yes, and probably something, did I say appraisal?
No.
Finance and appraisal.
Well,
I think real estate, I think if you get someone in commercial real estate that they are very familiar with the appraisal process, they would come in more so than the financial.
and I just wanted to say, you know, we've been kicking this can for a long time, and I think it was the last couple of meetings, you know, where I finally just said we gotta stop kicking the can and make a decision, where we made the decision that the commission finally just said, yes, we're gonna go after this. The biggest thing, I think, that kind of is still holding us back is how to pay for it all. So hopefully this committee will come together and give us a good number, give us a good path to achieve our goal of getting the school. That's what this is all about today. So,
And I would just like to say that I'm proud of this commission to actually having this discussion and moving forward. Because this has been something that I've been passionate about for a while, and we've been talking about for a long time, but we haven't been talking about it, we've been talking around it.
yes,
So this is giving us a path forward that I think is the best chance of success. So I'm happy that I'm happy we're all happy.
I think we're all on board.
We're good with that.
And with a proposal, that's the other thing, and Charles, you know, as this committee, it's not just, this is our figure, but we're gonna have to make a proposal, so it's gonna have to, that's why I say we really need somebody that has that expertise, because you're gonna have to lay out timelines, you're gonna have to lay out a lot of issues that we're gonna run into, that hopefully this Blue Ribbon Committee can address and incorporate, because that's something that they're gonna take into consideration. That's something they're gonna need to take into consideration, and I know you've got, that we have on this agenda, the architecture.
There are a few results for this presentation. And I was gonna ask them to come back with a proposal to do the analysis, what that would cost us to analyze buildings, structural analysis of buildings, and what it would take to, but they need the systems, mechanical systems.
Mayor, what was that, just, because that was something I meant to ask about, and I did not make a note of it. The RFP for architectural services, where does that stand?
We got one response, and they're a firm that specializes in historic preservation, and their response would be in your packet.
Okay, so that will
For next
be
West Palm
on
Beach.
the agenda for next week.
And so we already had planned to ask them to bring a proposal to do the plans for the Masonic Lodge, and we'll also ask them to give you a proposal to assess the buildings on campus, because they have extensive experience in historic buildings.
Okay.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
about another topic? Are we going to have financials with our packet?
Yes,
And additionally, our ARPA funds that we had set aside, there was money that we had set aside for economic stimulant or whatever, economic
Economic development.
program. But we didn't spend all of that,
correct.
but we need to before the end of this year, correct? Is
Uh,
ARPA,
I believe
Has to
that
be
December
expended, or has to be
2024,
committed.
I don't think they have extended it yet.
I don't think
They extended it already, so I don't know.
I do have an opportunity for that, potentially a pharmacy coming to town, so,
yeah, I just want to make sure that we're aware of that we don't want to give any money back to the federal government, that's,
Oh,
no, so use it or lose it.
Well, just hang on, isn't part of what we allocated ARPA for to pay the architect to do the evaluation for the Masonic Lodge?
But this is additional above that.
Right, no, I know,
Yeah,
that's good, I just want to clarify that part of that money was designated to pay
And for that fire extinguisher, or fire hydrants.
fire extinguishers, whatever.
they are, and it's looking, I hate to say it, it looks like we won't need all that money.
Good.
So we'll come back to you when we finish, if there's leftover, you can move that over into economic development, or whatever you.
Are they done with the three bananas?
We have to coordinate with Three Bananas, we have to close them for a day to fix that fire. So we're coordinating with them.
do we have anything else until we meet again? Okay, then with that, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna adjourn this workshop. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your input.
you to.
Go in peace.
Thank you.
Go in peace.